welcome to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, us. It's Ariel and
Raylene. Hey.
Delicious. Welcome to one of the last weeks of summer.
Ooh, that's nice to think about.
We are recording on August 28th. So in my head, September, it's a warm month. It's definitely hot, but it begins the shift.
Yeah,
and is
totally.
that definitely a hangover from back to school season?
Yeah.
100%. 100%. But it doesn't matter. Back to school season, September, literally on my road the other day. All right, really? Get ready.
Ready.
I freaked out. I had a little panic. I was like, you know when you're panicking about something and you're like, it's dumb for me to panic about this. However, I am panicking about it.
Yeah,
and so if I don't resolve it, I've got to just go fix the situation. So I wake up the other day and I see a construction crew set up some like traffic stop signs outside of my house.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's going on? What? And I'm panicking because of two things. Number one, I have this very deep anxiety that the city is going to cut down the beautiful trees in front of my house.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have that. That's never happened to me. That's never happened to anyone I know. But they're just such beautiful, big old trees. And I just, like, they touch the power lines. And I'm like, usually they would just cut the branches off, right? But what if they're crazy and they just cut down the
What
whole
if they
tree?
lose it?
So that's my first fear. But my second fear is I have one of my best friends ever, Lena, an alumni of the pod, is coming to visit me this week. And I was like, what if this is the 1 week where the city decided to destroy my street? They're going to just construction the whole week that she's here, my peaceful paradise. And you know where I live. It's very rural. It's very peaceful. Yeah. I'm like, my peaceful vibes destroyed by the city. I'm like, this is so... And I'm like, it's probably not that. Why would it be that? But I'm freaking out. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw on some jeans and I'm going to walk out and I'm going to talk to that guy who's holding a stop sign.
Yeah.
And I walk up to him and I'm like, hi, how are you? And he's like, I'm good. How are you doing? I was like, yeah, pretty good. Anyways, what are you doing? I'm like, give it to me straight. Rip off this Band-Aid. And he says, oh, we're just repainting the lines in time for the school buses.
Oh.
I was like, oh, man, actually, that's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you for yourself.
Anyways, it was a funny moment because I realized how tightly wound I am right now.
Yeah.
Like, I am so stressed about, it's not even stress. It is stress, but it's also just like a lot of anticipation for Lena coming and trying to finish a million things before she comes. But it made me realize, like, oh my God, yes, fall is right around the corners. Kids are about to get on the school bus. I'm going to be seeing that bus coming up and down the street again.
Oh my God.
That's wild. That's wild. All of that to say, it's almost autumn, and I'm excited.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Are you one of these people, Ray, who's like, gonna start, like, have you already started doing the pumpkin spiced activities?
Well, this is a great question.
Or do you wait?
I like that you asked that because that's kind of what I was about to say is like, we really have to like soak up every moment of fall while we have it because it almost feels like it's gone so fast. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the past few years, I feel like fall has gotten shorter and shorter. Like it does feel that way. It's summer. There's like, a couple days of fall and then it's winter all of a sudden. Like,
boom, snow,
it's just horrible. So I feel like you really do have to like soak it up. So I know I mentioned a few weeks ago that I found some like wall air freshener plug-in things that were pumpkin flavored.
Oh, yes.
So I have had those plugged in for the past little while. They're almost gone though, which I'm really sad about. And last time I went to the dollar store, they didn't have them anymore. So I was like, damn, I've made a big mistake. But yes, I do try and lean in as much as possible.
Okay.
While also like, you know, I'm still trying to enjoy that summer is ending and summer's still here.
Yeah.
So like I went to the lake last week and swam and it was really nice. So if I have another opportunity to swim, I will still do that. But yeah, next time I go to Starbucks, if they're offering pumpkin spice lattes, which I think they probably are by now, maybe, I will definitely get one. And that is my go-to. Like anytime a pumpkin spice latte becomes available, I will have that every time until I can't anymore because I just love them. They're so good.
It's just joy.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
I think I'm in a little bit of a different train to you. It is similar, but it's a little bit different. I grew up with a highly decorative mom.
Oh, yes.
And the people that know this, like, know what this is like,
Yeah,
like, that grew
yeah,
up with
yeah.
a parent or parents that, like, really decorated. It's a different life. And it's a good life. It's a good life because I love, and it's probably because of this, I love people that lean in. I like when you're like, it's fall, and therefore the house is now orange.
Yeah,
Or it's
yeah.
Christmas, and therefore you can't take a step without seeing a Santa. Right? Like, I love that my mom decorates so much and, like, really leans into the seasons.
Yeah.
However, because of that, she, when I was growing up, was very, like, stringent about when the seasons
Yes,
were,
that makes
because
sense.
it was about when the decorations come out and how long we enjoy each thing for,
Okay.
kind of a thing, right? So, for example, Christmas does not begin until November 12th.
Oh.
And that is because it's after Remembrance Day,
Yeah.
because my dad is a veteran, we, like, take that pretty seriously. So it's after Veterans Day, but it's around the weekend of my mom's birthday, which is when she wants to put up the Christmas tree. So the weekend closest to December 12th is when we put up the Christmas tree, and we ride Christmas until, like, end of January,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like 2.5 months. It's awesome. Therefore, for me, it was kind of a similar thing where she
Yeah.
was like, Halloween is October
Mm-hmm.
and some of September. And I just grew up that way, and I love it. Like, I like that the specific months have the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I saw some people, like, beginning of August already bringing out the pumpkins and stuff.
Yeah, like,
and I'm
that's just
no,
wrong.
you're diluting it
Yeah,
too much,
yeah.
in my opinion. Like, first of all, I will say, all of this is to be taken with a massive grain of salt. Whatever brings you joy, do what brings you joy in this short life that we have. If having the pumpkins out all year round brings joy, good. I actually drove past a house the other day, and I realized that they have their Christmas tree still up. And I'm like, that's fine.
Some people just live a different life, man.
I know. I was like, you've just got to live the joy that makes you joy. But for me personally, the joy that makes me joy is, like, really diving deep, but for a bit of a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
So September and October, to me, that's fall. And it's pumpkins and Halloween and everything.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then November, December, January,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
Christmas. And then, so August, for me, I'm like, there's no pumpkins
Don't
out
touch
yet.
it, yeah.
I'm like, no, it's not until September 1st when I can start to pull that. And I'm excited. And that's why it's kind of fun for me. I'm like, so excited. I'm like,
Yeah.
September has so much meaning. I'm like, oh my God, I get to bring out, like, the crocheted pumpkins Raylene made me.
I know
I'm like,
those are for contrast. Those are the only decorations that I have.
yeah, I don't have that many, but it's still, like,
Like
it's mainly just crocheted pumpkins.
I wish I was big into decorating like your mom, because I do love the look of it for fall specifically. I wouldn't personally do
Yeah.
it for every single different thing, because that's just not my style, but fall,
Yeah.
like, I drove or walked
So
past someone's
pretty.
house the other day, and they had, like, string lights and, like, kind of like orange leafy things on their patio.
Oh,
And I was
yes.
like, that's so nice. Like, I want to
so
do that.
pretty.
So I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
like
maybe
leaf garlands.
getting some more fall decorations just
I agree.
for fall.
I agree. Fall decorate. I think it's just lovely.
It's just
like
so
on a little
warm
mantle.
and
You have
happy.
your fireplace now. You could do like a little garland on the mantelpiece. Oh man,
There's a lot of
That's
things
just
I
too
could
cute.
do. There's a lot of things I could do.
There is a lot. Also, I realized when this comes out, it will be September,
That's true. It's right around the
which
corner.
also means we're in my birthday month, which also means I'm about to turn 29.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
You know what? Let's shelve that discussion for another time.
Let's wait until September for that problem.
I feel that we've buried the lead a little bit here because we got so excited about pumpkins that we haven't gotten to talk about how much fun this episode's going to be. Not only because of our pumpkin joy, but also because later on in this episode, we're going to be chatting with Terry Fallis.
Heck yeah.
Now, you guys know how much we stan Terry Fallis on this
It's
podcast.
true.
It became I don't know how we memed our way into it, but I love it.
Yep.
I read Albatross, his book that came out a few years ago. I read Albatross, and I just loved it so much that I wouldn't shut up about it. And then you read it, and you really liked it.
Yep.
And so then we just started trying to ship it out to people because we found out that they don't publish it outside of Canada.
Yeah.
So we've been anytime we see it in a thrift store, we buy it and we ship it off to a patron who would like it.
Yeah. I actually just did this
and
the other day.
now-
I found another one and I sent
Oh
it
my God.
a couple days ago. So it's kind of
I love
hilarious.
that. You see? I love that. So basically, we got reached out to by Terry Follis's publicist because Terry Follis has a new book coming out.
Yep.
Which this is crazy timing because, as you know, last week's episode we had A.S. King on because she had a new book come
Yeah,
out. So
how did this happen?
I mean, it is classic September. A lot of books come out, but anyways. Very exciting. He has a new book coming out, and we thought, how fun would it be to have him on the podcast? So we're going to have that later on today on this episode. The other thing I wanted to shout out and celebrate before we talk about our reading, Raylene, is our new bookmarks are here. So as you may know, we have a bookmark club. It's a subscription. Every quarter you get sent a beautiful pair of bookmarks and 2 little stickers. And this quarter's bookmarks were designed by Shelf Worn Drawn. We will link to them in the show notes and in the description. Look at how pretty the bookmarks are. We were so excited to do bookmarks in this style, weren't we, Ray?
Yeah, I feel like this has been a long time coming, having some kind of merch item with our books on it.
Yes, exactly. So Raylene and I both picked, I think it was 10 of our favorite books, and then we got these beautiful book spine art done, book spine arts done. That doesn't make sense. And then on the back, it's like the back of the books, which is so beautiful. Yep. So these have been shipped out. They're on their way to the subscribers. We're so excited and we're so grateful to Shelf Worn Drawn for making those. They're so pretty. They're so pretty. I showed it to Connor and he was like, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I was like, woohoo!
Yes, we're obvious, but it's okay.
We're trying our, yeah. We're just trying to, this is like my dream bookmark. But I also just love, like, they're just beautiful. Like, if I just saw this anywhere, I would think it was pretty. But also I think if you listen to the podcast, you will have heard us talk about every one of these books over and over and over.
Yeah. It just screams
awesome.
Books Unbound, that bookmark.
It does just scream Books Unbound. All right, well, with those things mentioned, Raylene, get us started with your reading update. What's this week looked like for you?
So I'll start off with what I have been reading, and I finished Happy Place by Emily Henry, first of all,
wonderful.
So I'll talk about that one first. Emily Henry's debut novel, The Love That Split the World, was published in 2016. She wrote a few other young adult novels before publishing her first adult fiction novel, Beach Read, in 2020. She has since published 3 other romance books, and her newest, Funny Story, is to be released in April of next year. So, this one, I just absolutely flew through. It was such a joy to read. It was exactly what I needed. So this one, like I was talking about last week, it's a romance, like a summer romance about a group of friends and a couple that has broken up but are having to pretend that they're still together for the sake of not ruining this little vacation that they're having.
Right.
So it's, like you were saying, like that classic kind of crazy shenanigans romance setup. But because of that, throughout the book, it was kind of like very suspenseful because you don't know if they're actually going to get back together or not throughout a lot of the book. And I won't say any more than that, but it's like very full of tension throughout the whole book because you're like, these people have been together for almost a decade and they've decided to break up. Like that could be very final, or they could work it out.
Right.
So, it's got a different kind of flavor than some of the other romance books I've read where it's like, oh, this actually might not work out. Because usually in romance books, everything is, kind of building up and then something happens that kind of tears them apart for a little bit and then they come back together.
Yes.
That's like the very normal kind of formula. And this one kind of broke that mold a little bit. And so that was very fun. I did find the reason why they broke up to be a little crazy based on the fact that they've been together for so long. And I won't say any more than that, but it was kind of like, just talk to each other, It was one of those types of things. If you just talk to each other, maybe everything would be okay. But other than that, like, it was really, really fun. It was a really hilarious, like I said, and I really liked that this book focused a lot on friendships rather than just being about the kind of romantic relationship between the main characters. Because the main character has these 2 best friends from college, and it also kind of touches on themes of, like, people growing older, people maybe growing apart a little bit. Like as you get older, you're not as close as you were when you were roommates in college, like things, everybody lives in different sides of the country and all this stuff. So it was interesting that it kind of took a look at that and, says like, it's okay. Like this is normal. These things happen. So It was nice. It was very funny, very fun, and I'm already eager to read another book by Emily Henry, so I will probably be doing that.
I'm curious what your kind of personal ranking is of the Emily Henrys you've read.
That's a good question. It's actually kind of funny. I mentioned in my little blurb that she has written a few young adult novels, and I actually read one of hers like a long time ago and hated it.
Oh.
So it was a kind of one of those funny things where I didn't really make the connection until later that I was like, wait, is this the same? Wait, what?
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I didn't like The Love That Split the World, so I put that at the bottom. But then the only other book other than Happy Place that I've read is Beach Read. And
okay.
honestly, I don't know which one I would rank higher. Like, I think maybe Beach Read wins just a little bit. But they're both really good. Like, I think I think the writing was funnier in this book than it was in Beach Read. In Beach Read, it was more like a, enemies to lovers kind of snarky type of romance. Whereas this one was more like people who are familiar with each other. So it had just like a different vibe to it. So I don't know. Like, I think I like them both for different reasons, which was kind of nice. They're not like the same book. But yeah, I think I might squeak Beach Read ahead just a little bit above this one. But both very good so far. Yeah.
So now you still have to read The People You Meet on Vacation?
And Book Lovers.
One, right? And Book Lovers, right.
And then she has a new book coming out in April, so I'm sure I'll have read all of her books before April. We'll see. Is that a TBR challenge for books that I don't own? Maybe. We'll see. But then after I finished that, I actually had another book to pick up at the bookstore because I ordered a few books last week. As you may remember, I had a bit of a book haul, and it turns out there was a fourth book that I forgot I had ordered that didn't show up, and so it showed up, and then I read it. So that book is Catboy by Benji Nate. Caroline Benji Sweater, known professionally as Benji Nate, is a Puerto Rico-born cartoonist whose works include Catboy, Lorna, Hellphone, Bloodroot, Cold Soda, and Girl Juice. So first of all, I didn't realize Benji Nate was quite as prolific as she is. When I was doing my research, I'm like, wait, she's actually like made quite a few cool comics. A couple that you have, obviously, but yeah.
It's so exciting that you got Catboy, though. I know you literally talked about that a few episodes ago.
Yeah, like I've been wanting to get it.
Yeah. Girl Juice.
Maybe.
And so you were like, I want Catboy.
Yeah, and the thing is, I remember a little while ago, like months and months ago, I wanted to get it, but it wasn't available through Indigo or something like that. And so I just took a chance and looked it up again. And it was available, so I ordered it.
Cool.
So yeah, I ordered it, showed up, and I just read it because I was like, you know what? It's a really short graphic novel. I may as well just read this, knock it off the old TBR. So the premise of this book is quite funny. I actually didn't really know what it was about before getting it. I just wanted it because it was a cute cat book. But the main character is this girl who's actually kind of like, she seems like she's young, but she goes to bars and stuff. So I know she's at least probably 21. Okay. So she's a woman. She lives by herself with this cat. And at the very beginning of the book, she wishes on a shooting star that she could hang out with her cat like a person. And so then he becomes this like anthropomorphized, whatever the word is, like cat person. Like he becomes tall and can stand on his hind legs, but he kind of thinks like a cat and acts like a cat. So it leads to quite a lot of funny like situations and kind of shenanigans. And like every now and then he'll just wander off and he'll come back with a dead bird. And she's like, where did you get that? And he's like, I got hungry. So I went into the forest and found this bird. And like, he'll just do weird things like that. Yeah. But it was quite funny. So
Great.
it was a weird little book, but I feel like if that sounds at all in any way appealing, also, the outfits of this book were so great because like the main character has like a really cool sense of style, and the cat, whose name is Henry, he has no clothes, and she's like, I'm not going to go out and buy you clothes, so you can just wear my clothes. And so they're constantly like just wearing these cute outfits together. And
that's so cool.
Like every few pages, because it's kind of like a bunch of short stories, almost like a bunch of little vignettes. Okay. And so like at the beginning of each one, it'll just be like a full page of them in their cute outfits. And then the story will kind of begin. Neat. So I'll take a couple pictures of those for the Instagram because the art is so good in this book. Like it's very, very cute. And like the color palette is just very good. So
I found a similar thing with Hellphone where I was like looking at their outfits and I was like, these are so cute.
Yeah, like it was really well put together. So I'm like, Benji Nate must be very fashionable.
Yeah, seriously.
It's the only thing that makes sense. But yeah, so those are the two things I finished. But in order to tell you what I'm reading, I kind of have to get into a book haul. So maybe, do you want to share what you're reading, and then we can jump into my book haul?
Sure. So I have not finished anything. I feel like I just feel I'm sorry. I'm like losing my brain over here. I feel like I'm inching forward in life, but I'm not like getting to the end of anything quite yet. So
yeah.
I have made some more progress in Breasts and Eggs by Miyako Kawakami. I'm liking that one a lot, but I just haven't finished it yet. But then I also randomly started reading Diary of a Void by Emi Yagi. It was just sitting kind of next to me, and I was like, I am curious about that. And so I started reading the first few pages. Next thing I knew, I was like a third in. So
nice.
I'm enjoying it. It's like the first little section was really great because the whole premise of this book is a woman who works at a very corporation, in a high-rise building, the whole thing, song and dance, is feeling super run down. Yeah. Classic for Japanese novels that we read, right? Like, it's obviously, that's a major theme. It's like a terrible work-life balance. And so the funny, interesting, weird take on this book is that she is always expected to like do all of these kind of domestic tasks, like clean up the coffee cups after a meeting and make the coffee before the meeting and take out the trash, even though she's not an assistant. Right. She's like a person that works at an office, but just because she's a woman, they expect her to do it. And so one day she's like just annoyed, and they're like, could you clean up the coffee cups? And she's like, actually, do you think that you could get someone else to do it because I'm pregnant? And the person's like, oh my God, I didn't know. Of course. And it's about how much respect she suddenly gets from everyone because she's pregnant. And like, what is the value in a person, in a woman, when she's pregnant versus when she's not pregnant? Yeah. Why do people treat you so much better when you're pregnant versus when you're not?
That is interesting.
Like, do we value women more when they're like, repopulating
just
the earth
as breeders rather than as people?
As breeders. Yeah, exactly. That kind of question. But and like she's getting all sorts of interesting perks. People are being way nicer to her, but she's also able to leave work when her work actually ends because everyone's like, of course you should go home and have a good meal and get enough rest. Yeah. Whereas before she was like made to stay way after hours just to work and like keep the grind going and stuff. So I'm really enjoying the concept of it. I will say the beginning was a little bit more exciting than right now. It's just a little middling right now, but I'm working through it and enjoying it. The other big, massive thing that's going on over here, Raylene.
Yes.
And I don't know if people will be able to tell any audio difference, but I actually have a fan running behind me, which obviously typically I turn off for the podcast. Impossible today. This room is probably a biohazard. It is so full of fumes from stain and polyurethane because I am staining my shelves. Yes, Raylene, you can see lots of them.
I hadn't noticed until you started saying it. I was like, wait a minute, those are bookshelves.
They're everywhere. They're over there. They're behind me. It's a mess. My office is a disaster, but I really am trying to finish these before Lena comes because I don't want my office to just be a giant mess. So I was like, wait, timing it out. I was like, if I stain this day, poly sand, poly sand. I was like, Christ, I need to just get it going. And so I have been in mania. Like last night, it was 10 p.m. and I was there staining.
Oh no.
And I've like cracked open a window. I've got a fan going, and only for the hour of recording this podcast have I closed this door. But I'm opening the door, and then there's a door behind that door to the outside that I have open.
Get it all going.
I'm really aerating the room because obviously fumes are dangerous. But for the 30 minutes that we record this podcast, then we have a big break before we're talking with Carrie Follis.
Go outside.
The airflow will be working and stuff, but that's a huge goal of mine, as you guys know, is to build these bookshelves this year. Yeah. And I see it.
Yeah, it's finally within reach.
It's gonna happen. I just need to keep pushing every day. But that's been the other big thing that's been taking up my time, the shelves, and also just
that makes sense.
Ripping up carpets and stuff. It's been hectic, but it's been good. So I'm very excited because, oh man, like when I get all these books that are piled here, I'll definitely right now we can insert some B-roll footage of the shelves and all of the books that are waiting to be shelved.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really beautiful for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for that to eventually.
But yeah, that's
be
my
done.
kind of weekly update.
Nice.
What about you? What about your book haul, Raylene? Lead us through what you're currently reading and stuff.
Yes. So I have been on a little bit of a journey this past week in terms of my TBR. So I have unhauled a bunch of books. First of all,
Okay.
I decided
Whoa.
to like reorganize my books a little bit, and I did like a first sweep. I was like, you know what? There's some books here that I've been questioning for a while. Like, do I still really want to read that? And so I
Right.
like skimmed off a few, and then the other day I was like, I need to do like a harder pass. And so
Whoa.
I won't say which books I'm getting rid of, but I'll send you a picture so you can see. I'll send you a picture later so you can see. But I'm getting rid of some books that I've had for a while that I've been like kind of meaning to read
Interesting.
for a while. But I'm like, you know what? It's been 5 years or whatever. I haven't even
Yeah.
once thought about actually picking that one up. Like it's been, I'm just trying to be more mindful about my books and what I'm reading, what I'm buying, what I'm, putting on my shelves and stuff like that. So with all of that being said,
do you know how many you're getting rid of?
yes, because I have a spreadsheet where I keep track of what my TBR is at.
Oh, right.
And
right.
I don't know how many I've gotten rid of specifically in the past week, but in August so far, I have unhauled 27 books.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
very interesting. Very
So
interesting.
I've taken off a lot, but I've also bought a lot. Obviously, I had a haul of like 9 books last week, plus
Yeah.
a couple that I'm going to haul right now. So I'm still figuring things out. I'm still
okay.
trying to understand who I want to be.
ever evolving.
I feel like
journey.
I'm making some kind of headway in terms of my mental state for my TBR and what I want it to be. But anyways, with all that being said, I did go to a book sale on Saturday.
Of course.
But I went to it. It was also only it was a 1 day only book sale. Usually the book sales last for a whole weekend, but this was just like a 1 day kind of blowout outdoor book sale.
Oh, yes, outdoors.
So I was kind of like, okay, either it's going to be really like dinky and there's going to be just a couple of tables, or this is going to be like a big event. Like I've never been to this specific one. And so
Right.
I went, and oh my God, the whole town was there, I swear. Like it was
wow.
crazy how many people were at this book sale. There were so
That's
many
fun.
tables full of books. So I was just like having a ball looking through all the books. But I went into it with the intention of only buying things that I really, really, really wanted and or was specifically
Yeah.
looking for to begin with. So I started out the book sale by finding something that's random, but also something I want, which is Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King.
Oh, yeah.
So this is so random. So
It
random.
is a little random,
But-
but it looks cool.
But I do want to read like as many Stephen King books as I can. So I decided to pick it up. And I was, fully intending, like, if this is the only book I find today, that is fine. That is just okay.
But
and so
I'm sure that's not what happened.
no,
really.
I found a couple of others, but this was the first one, and I'm really excited. It's illustrated, so I'll put in some B-roll of the illustrations because it looks super weird.
Oh, cool.
But my intention is to read this like next, as my next book
Okay.
that I read, kind of thing. So I feel
Cool.
okay about that. But then, as I walked through the sale, I found another Stephen King book that was also random. 1922 by Stephen King, which is a little novella, which has been made into a movie. I know that there's a movie version of this, which I haven't seen yet. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. Don't know what it's about at all, but it was Stephen King. So I
So you
said,
had to
it's
get it.
okay. It's okay.
Yep.
Because it's actually kind of funny. I've been thinking recently, like, I need to read another Stephen King book. It's been too long. I haven't read one since January. So,
Oh, right. Huh.
and so it kind of just worked out that way. I was like, you know what? I'm going to read a bunch of Stephen King. But then actually, before I tell you the last book and what I'm currently reading, I did record a little voice clip that I was supposed to put.
Yes.
We should have played earlier. We might have to edit it a little bit because I've already hauled a couple books. But let's just play the audio clip that it's funny because I texted Ariel. Well, you kind of discovered it on Instagram. You were making fun of me for buying books, even though I had just said I wasn't going to buy books. And so
After we stopped recording last week, every single week we stop recording and then we have a meeting where we
Yes.
talk about everything, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about all the admin that has to do with the podcast. But then we also just chat a little
Yeah.
bit. And yeah, we started chatting about book buying, blah blah blah, and Raylene was like, I am so committed to like getting it under control.
Yeah.
And you told me that you were going to that book sale, but you said you were like, I probably won't even buy any books.
Yeah.
And if I do, I will only buy them if like I have them on my list. It's something that I really want. It's something that I want to read right away. And I was like, you go, Raylene. Go,
That's
girl,
a good
yeah.
plan. Yeah.
And then, like, 4 days later on Instagram, you're like, went to a book sale, bought a bunch of books. And I'm like, gee.
I know, it's just funny how it worked out, but I do feel good about this book haul. But yeah, so you kind of challenged me to commit to actually reading these books right away, which is what I said I wanted to do. And so far, I'm fulfilling that. But yeah, I recorded a little voice clip right after we texted. So today I went to a book sale. It was actually an outdoor book sale, which was really cool. It was massive and so hot, and there were so many people. But I went in expecting to get maybe 1 or 2 books, but I was being really picky about what I wanted to get. I only wanted to get books that I was specifically looking for, and I kind of sort of did that. So the first book that I got was The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney, which I was very pleasantly surprised to find this. I didn't realize that this was the original title. I've been looking for this book, and its kind of new title is The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I don't know if that's because of a movie that was made or something like that, but I found this cool old copy from the 60s, and I'm so excited. So my plan is to read that next. Like, I'm currently in a fresh slate situation where I just finished a book last night, so my plan is to jump right into this. And then the other 2 books I got were kind of impulse buys a little bit, but exciting impulse buys. They're both Stephen King books. So the first one is The Cycle of the Werewolf, and it's very strange looking, and I've definitely heard of this, but I don't really know anything about it. It's illustrated, it's very short, so my plan is to possibly read that one right after The Body Snatchers. And then the last book that I got is 1922 by Stephen King, which is just a novella, so it's also very short. All of these books are under 200 pages, so my plan is to read them all back to back to back, because my new goal is to read my books better and not buy so many. So that's the plan, and we will see what happens. Let's cut back to future me, and we'll see if I've managed to read any of these books. So yes, so I went to this sale not expecting to find this book, Body Snatchers, The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney, which actually like I said in the clip, I knew this book to be called The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I almost didn't even notice this book when I saw it because it didn't catch my eye in the same way. I also didn't realize it's quite as old as it is. This book was published in the 50s. So this copy I have is this like weird little copy from, I think, 1967 or something. It's a reprint. But I was looking for something a little more modern. But anyway, that book has been on my list for a while because I've been trying to find some more sci-fi horror classics, because that's one of my favorite genres. Like, I love John Wyndham. I've read a few H.G. Wells that I've really enjoyed and stuff like that. So I've been looking for more. Bradbury. Yeah, like that's kind of the niche of classics that I think I gravitate towards the most. And so I have been looking for this book for a while. Was absolutely not expecting to find it, but so glad that I did. And now I am currently reading it. I'm on page 68 out of, it's just under 200 pages long. Like, they're all quite short books that I got, but I'm really liking this so far. So this book, the main character is a doctor in a small town, and at the very beginning, he gets a call from one of the people, one of his patients or whatever, and she's like, something weird is happening. My uncle he looks exactly like my uncle. He sounds just like my uncle, but he's not. I just know that he's not. He's an imposter. And the doctor is like, okay, sure, let me come have a look at him and see if I can figure out what you're talking about. And he's like, you're crazy. Like, this is crazy. But then more and more people start saying the same thing. So it starts to get kind of creepy. And what I really like too is that it's a short book, so it doesn't like take a long time for them to get going on the action, like immediately the main character is like, let's figure out what's going on here. Like, I believe that something strange is happening. Like, he sees something that convinces him, basically. Yeah. And so right from the get-go, him and a few other people are like, let's figure out what's going on here. Yeah. So it's really exciting so far and really, really fun. And like, I am so curious to see where the rest of the book is going to go because it's already jumping into so much like juicy stuff right from the beginning. So I feel like it's going to get really crazy.
Cool.
But I'm really liking it. It's kind of giving me like a Stepford Wives vibe a little bit too, where you've got like this like, what is going on in this small town? And I mean, if you see the cover that I have, it does look kind of like there's aliens or something. You know, I've got this wacky plant life thing going on.
When is it from?
I think it came out in 1954.
Okay, 50s.
Or
Gotcha.
54, 55, something like that. So yeah, it's cool. Like this came out before the Stepford Wives, but I feel like it's like got a similar vibe. So yeah, I got that, and then I got those 2 Stephen King books. So I'm hoping to read those all back to back to back. If I don't, maybe you should punish me.
I think I should.
Okay.
So TBR challenge enacted. Now, that's right. If you don't do it, then punishment will come upon you
of
and
whatever
your
you
house.
choose. Okay, I like this plan.
So before we hop over to our interview, did you say you had one more book?
I do have one more book, so I'll talk about that very quickly. So I got another book from Penguin, so thanks again to Penguin, our buddy Cameron over at Penguin, who is Terry Follis's publicist as well. So it's all connected. It's all connected. He reached out to me and said, this book just, like, I saw this on someone else's desk and I just thought of you right away. Like, do you want this book?
Amazing.
And the book is The Goodbye Cat by Hiro Arikawa, which is the newest book by this author, who is the author of the Traveling Cat Chronicles. As everyone may remember, that is the book that kind of started it all for me in my cat collection. And so I didn't even realize that he had a new book coming out. So that alone was very, very exciting.
Cool.
I'm very excited to have an arc now. This comes out October 10th. So I guess another TBR challenge is to read this before October. And then I want to buy like a finished copy of the book too, because I'll need that for my collection. But it just looks so cute. And I don't know what it's about at all. But, you know, another cat book by an author that I already know can do cat books very well. I'm into it. I'm excited.
Okay.
So I'm very happy about that. And yes, thank you to Penguin for sending that to me. Very thoughtful.
I love it.
Very thoughtful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. You know what? Keep buying books, Raylene. Why not? Woohoo!
It makes me happy.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to hop over now to our interview with Terry Follis. All right, everyone. We are so excited to be talking with Terry Follis today. As you all know, we have become obsessed with Terry Follis's book, Albatross. But now perhaps we will become obsessed with your new book, Terry. We're so excited to have you here celebrating your new book. And we'd love to just start off by asking the big question. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your new book.
Well, I'm Terry Follis. I'm a writer who lives in Toronto, and I am grateful for the support you have given to my earlier books, particularly Albatross. That's very kind of you, and I've been aware of the podcast and have watched your episodes, so it's great to be with you. Thank you.
Yay!
Very exciting.
So the new book is, oops, those are my little stickies for when I read. It's called A New Season, and it comes out tomorrow. Well, sorry.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
If this is live, it comes out on Tuesday, August the 29th. So whenever this podcast goes live, it may already be out. But
yeah, it will be out. This comes out in a week. So people flock to the stores. It is available now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, can you tell us what it's about?
Sure. How long do we have on the podcast? So I talk about that. And there's songwriting in the novel. In fact, we can talk about this as well if you like. There are 2 original songs in the novel.
Oh, cool. Wow.
And you will actually hear them on the audiobook.
Oh, I love that stuff.
So that's something new.
That's a hot tip.
Yeah.
And finally, it's about Paris, both today and in the 1920s. So you're
really hitting a lot of exciting bullet points here.
Yeah.
I know, you're wondering, why would you cram so much into the same novel? And I said, well, you know, it's funny, when you live with a novel, when you have to write a novel, it takes, 18 months or 2 years to write it. You better be interested in the topics you're writing about. And that's always been the case for me. I write about things that interest me, that I care about, or issues that I have a point of view on, that I want to advance in a non-proselytizing way, but sort of cloaked in a story that may give readers an opportunity to think about something. So I try to do that. So I'm interested in all of these things in the novel that I'm touching on in the new novel. So
that sounds so great. I think your point about females perhaps being better at friendship, women being better, I think it's an interesting point. I have a friend of mine, one of my best friends, she lives abroad, she lives in England, and we called for like 3 hours. It was a beautiful call, and at the end of it we were like, all right, when should we call next? And we scheduled in when our next call would be, and her boyfriend was next to her, and he was like, this is why women are better at friendship.
right,
because
it
would never occur to me to schedule the next hangout at the end of the last hangout.
right.
So that's a top tip. That's a top tip for everyone.
There you go.
Keep scheduling.
That's good.
I'd love to know, what is the thing that you're most excited about with your new book? It does seem like there's a lot of cool things going on, so that might be tricky, but what is one of the things you're most excited about with it?
Well, if excited, I might change the word from excited to anxious. How about that?
Yes.
What am I most anxious about? Well, beyond me, every writer is anxious the day before their novel comes out because so few people have read it at that stage.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how it's going to land. But in particular for this one, as you may be able to tell from the themes that I touched on, this is a bit of a departure for me. Normally, my modus operandi when writing a novel is to come up with the germ of a story or an issue I want to deal with, and then I bend the story to my will to make it to open it to the potential for humor. That I write funny novels. In this novel, I have cast off the yoke, the tyrannical yoke of humor, and I have not necessarily tried to make this as funny as possible. Instead, I followed the story. I followed the story that emerged in my less than fully functional brain pan, and I have just gone with it. I think it's funny in places, but there's a relatively sad premise to the story that doesn't easily lend itself to side-splitting humor.
Yeah,
right.
So I sort of put the humor in where it fits, but I've let the story unfold more organically than perhaps I have in the past, where I have really kind of pounded the lead ingot and shaped it into the story that I want. This time I've just let the story unfold. And when the novel opened, this is not a giveaway because you hear about this in the first or second chapter, but the narrator is going through something. And what he's going through is that 2.5 years before the novel opens, his wife passed away from COVID. One of the first COVID deaths in Toronto. And back in that early stage, it was at the stage in the COVID, our understanding of COVID, where his wife, who was a high-flying mergers and acquisitions lawyer, recognized the symptoms she was feeling and drove herself to the hospital on the way home from work.
Oh, wow.
And her wife and their son were never in the same room with her again. So it's a bit of a gut punch to open.
Yeah.
And he's not recovering as well as she hoped he would. That may sound like a weird thing to say, but that comes up in the story. So he's struggling, and his son is trying to help him, and his son is also recovering as well. But so that's what I mean about loss and recovery. Everyone deals with it differently. And one of his great supports is the ball hockey league that he plays in. And that's where the male friendship comes in, because there are 90 guys who play in the league.
Nice.
So we get to explore how guys deal with loss and how they support their friends, which is perhaps not quite as overt, although just as heartfelt, but it's not, we don't do it very well. We're not good at it. So I'm examining that as well. But, for readers of my other novels, I hope you will laugh throughout the story, but probably not as often as in my other novels.
I am so excited that there's a sports element. I have realized how much I love sports in fiction, partly because of Albatross. Like, I love even though the guy hates golf, like, it's still fun to watch that be a big part of the story.
Yeah.
Like Indian Horse is another favorite of mine, and obviously it has a large hockey element to it. So yeah, I realized that I love sports books, which is funny because I don't really watch sport or whatever, but I love it in a book. So I'm very excited to hear that is an element to it.
That's good stuff.
I'm curious. I do want to just probe a little bit about the audiobook. You mentioned that the audiobook has original songs in it. So did you get to record the audiobook? Did you get to record your songs for it? And how was that experience? Because that sounds really fun.
Yes, to all of those questions. Ooh. Yes. This is the third audiobook I have voiced. My previous 6 novels before that, I podcast them and give them away for free, as you know. But when Penguin Random House finally got their own audiobook division, I decided to sell out and just do a regular audiobook.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
I have been the voice on all of them, for better or worse. But yeah, and it was their idea to include the songs, and they've certainly never done it at McClellan and Stewart. It may be they don't know of a time, any other audiobook that has original music in it. So this might be a first, but we don't know for sure.
That's really cool, that's so much fun though. Did you get to play, did you play guitar or something, or how did you
Yes. Well, and we recorded the songs just as they appear in the novel. So in both cases, he's just using a guitar, and the first one he's singing it, I think, for his son. Yeah, I think so. And so it's just me and an acoustic guitar. I think of it as a love song to the ball hockey league I play, which is modeled very closely. In fact, it is the ball hockey league in the novel.
I love that.
So it's called More Than the Game, and it rolls into the friendship topic because I joined the league when I was 42, when I was 42 years old, and it's at that relatively advanced stage in life, you don't expect all of a sudden to gather around yourself a new group of really strong friends, where we go to their parents' funerals. When people are sick, we help. Anyway. So that's I use the Ball Hockey League as the vehicle through which we explore male friendship in this novel. And the second song was written 42 years ago. And it's a song that I wrote. It's a love song I wrote for the woman I just started dating her at McMaster University.
Yay! It's so cute. Yay!
Did you go to Mac?
No, but I just love imagining people in Ontario universities falling in love. There's something about it.
Well, I just started going out with her about 3 months in, and I'd fallen hard, and then, as most students do at Christmas, she went home for the Christmas holidays, and she lives in Nova Scotia, in the Annapolis Valley at the time, in Greenwood, and I was missing her, and I wrote this song called "Until the New Year," and I wrote it one night sitting on my residence bed, I had strung up Christmas lights in my window, and there was a full moon out there with clouds going around it. And, so sometimes lyrics are right in front of you. And there's a lyric in there about, and winter clouds surround the moon as colored lights frame my thoughts of you. Because I was seeing my own reflection in the window with the colored lights around it. Anyway, so anyway, as it turned out, there was a reason I was in love with her. We've now been married 36 years.
Yay!
So there is a happy ending to that story.
That's so beautiful.
Wow.
So both those songs are in the novel.
That's awesome.
I've noticed, I attended one of your events at Lunenburg Bound a couple of months ago, which I talked about here on the podcast. And I realized in everything that you were talking about how much of your own life you've been able to put into your novels and use. And it's so much fun. And especially being a Canadian podcast, it's so much fun when we get to celebrate Canadian spots and places and read, and they're actually in the book. So I think that's going to be really cool for readers to check out. We are now going to pivot a little bit over into doing some deep diving into your bookshelves, because this is so much fun to learn about the authors that we all read about. What are the books on your shelves?
Mm-hmm.
So, Raylene, start us off with the questions.
All right. Number 1 is, what is the last book you added to your shelves?
Well, this is it. You can see I'm only halfway through it, but it's a biography I picked up in Charlottetown, PEI, about 4 weeks ago. And it's called Firebrand, The Life of Horace Liveright, the man who changed American publishing. And you may not know Horace Liveright, but in the 1920s, he kind of revolutionized how books were published and marketed and sold, and how authors were compensated. And he published some of the great writers of that time, including Ernest Hemingway. He on the back here, he has some of the books that he published. He published Hemingway's In Our Time, his first collection of stories. But, he also published Faulkner and E.E. Cummings. And so it's a fascinating story. He was a womanizer. He was bad with money. He was probably an alcoholic, but he was so passionate about books and publishing,
so interesting,
and offering readers the broadest choice of what he thought were important books. And you might have heard of, there's a series called The Modern Library. And you can buy all the classics in the Modern Library. Horace Liveright started that.
Wow,
that's so cool. It's one of those things where a lot of the most important book people were not authors themselves, so we don't know their names the way that you might know Hemingway, but it's so interesting when you read about just these, like, the massive and important small moves that, like, a marketing person invented that we now just take for granted. The example in my mind being paperbacks. Like, you think a paperback is just, a thing that has always invented, but it was just a guy who was like, wouldn't it be better to read a cheaper, lighter book on the train? Oh my God, hold on. Paperbacks. Boom.
Right.
That's so cool.
Exactly. Revolution.
All right, Ray, what's our next one? I'm excited about this one.
Yes. So what is the coolest signed book you have, Ray?
Okay, well, I brought two. I have two to talk about. One is my first edition of Paul Quarrington's very first novel, The Service, from Coach House Books. And there's a story that goes with it. In fact, there, he's signed it to me. I collected all of his books in first editions before I ever wrote anything myself. So I was a longtime fan. So it was an extraordinary thrill for me when my first novel came out back in 2008 to do a reading with Paul Quarrington, a great Canadian novelist. And we were in Grimsby at the Grimsby Author Series. And I was the warm-up act, obviously, and I did my thing. And then he went to the podium, and he was coughing a little bit. He took a bottle of Buckley's mixture from his pocket and put it on the podium and said, I've got this cough that I can't shake, so I'm going to be, dipping into this throughout the evening. And none of us thought much of it at the time. But, and like some author stalker, when our publicist picked us both up, I had my backpack filled with all of his first editions.
That's awesome.
And on the way home from the reading back to Toronto, by the glow of the dome light, he inscribed all of them for me. But the sad postscript to the story is that it was just about a week later that he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And he lasted another about 14 months, and then we lost him. So it sort of added some new poignance to that event I did with him. So that's the first one. On a happier note, I have a signed edition of The World According to Garp.
Oh, that's
really
cool.
The 40th anniversary edition.
That's really cool.
And where he signed it here somewhere. Yeah, he signed it there. But
beautiful.
And he doesn't do a lot of signing. John Irving, if you were to press me, I'd probably tell you that he is my favorite author of all time. And A Prayer for Owen Meany may well be my my all-time favorite novel, though I've read it once. It had such an effect on me.
That's
I'm afraid to read it again.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But so it was a great thrill for me. Last November, Shelley Macbeth at Blue Heron Books, an independent bookstore in Uxbridge, Ontario, she runs the Book Drunkard Festival, which is a great festival. It's called Book Drunkard Festival because that's a line from Lucy Maud Montgomery. And she grew up,
my favorite.
She spent part of her life in Uxbridge, Ontario.
Yes.
So they named it kind of after. Anyway, Shelley knew of my love and reverence for John Irving, and he was speaking in the Book Drunkard Festival, and I got to introduce him
Cool.
at the event.
Wow.
And then we had dinner, just the six of us had dinner afterwards that went on till all hours of the night. And then it seemed to go well because he emailed me a month or so later and said he has another event to do here in Toronto, and would I interview him on stage?
Oh my God, yes, please.
And
Absolutely.
when I regained consciousness, I said yes.
Sorry,
And,
I just
so-
passed out on my laptop. I'm back now.
Does the invitation still stand? You know?
That's
And
so fun.
so we worked on the interview together leading up to it, and so we did the onstage interview. My wife took 500 photos of us, I think, but and then we had dinner again with him. So
An experience.
it was a great thrill, and he was. They say don't meet your heroes, but in this case, it
worked out.
it was
Worth it.
great too. Yes, it worked out. So those are my two signed editions.
I love asking this question because everyone gets these little brushes with heroes, and it's just so exciting.
Yeah, it's a whole
so
story every
exciting.
time.
It's the whole story.
Yeah.
All right, Ray, take us on to our next question.
Yes, next up is what is the oldest book on your shelf?
I have it ready.
Flip.
This is a first edition from 1869 of, stand by,
Stand by.
John Stuart Mill's The Subjection of Women.
Oh,
Perfect. Oh, wonderful.
And if you read my
Pulls Apart.
fifth novel, Poles
I
Apart,
read that earlier this
that
year,
is-
so I knew exactly what that was the moment you.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
that's the novel that appears
Yeah.
in it. As you say, I put pieces of my life in my novels. They aren't autobiographical. I'm not writing about me, but I know those worlds that I write
Yeah.
about. So I know that book, and this is a wonderful
What a
book.
cool thing. Wow.
You read it now and you think, it took us this long after this book to get anywhere close to equality, and we
Yeah.
still have a long way to go.
Okay, well, that was a really cool
funny,
answer to
Ray.
that question. Very cool. Okay, our next question is what is a book that you wish more people were reading?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, this is one called Kinmount by Rod Carley. Rod Carley is a good friend, but he's also a very fine writer. And this is a funny book that was longlisted for the Leacock Medal when it came out a couple of years ago. And it could use some more readers, I think. It's very funny. It's about a director who goes to direct a Shakespeare play in the town of Kinmount, Ontario, and it's very funny. So I would recommend this. The second one would be a novel called Last Impressions by Joseph Curtis, Kertes. I took apart my library and still can't find it. I must have lent it to somebody, but it's very good.
That's us every week. We cause real mayhem in our offices looking
Yes,
for books, and you're
yes.
like, sometimes you just have to accept that it's gone.
Righto.
Right.
Okay, next up, our question is what is your favorite bestseller where you totally agree with the hype?
Oh yeah.
I two quick ones, and I won't flash them. But Babel by Rebecca
Oh yeah.
Kang or Kwang,
Yeah.
Kuang.
Yeah.
It's quite a new book. She's 27 years old, and it made me want to stop writing.
She's stoned everyone up.
It's very good. But the other one would be A Secret History by Donna Tartt.
Oh, cool. Yes.
That's true.
Cool.
It hits it out
Yeah,
of the
that
park.
lived up to the hype, I think. Yes.
Absolutely.
I love this question because I think often because we're readers, we want to kind of give people the lesser known books and be a little bit
Right.
more niche. But oftentimes you read a bestseller and you're like, for a reason that
Yep.
everyone is
For a
reading it.
reason.
It's just so good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, on to our last question, which is probably my favorite one, is do you have a niche book collection? And if so, can you tell us what it is?
Yes, if I could turn the camera around, you'd see 4 bookshelves over here that have every winning book, every Stephen Leacock Medal for Humor winning book from 1947 until the.
That's really
So
cool.
you take your funny book seriously, I see.
I do. Well, funny novels are a serious business.
Very good. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Have you read them all? Or is it more of a collection?
I've read most of them. I haven't read all of them.
Yeah.
I haven't read, and some of them are, as you might imagine, a little dated now. But I've certainly read, I think, probably all of them in the last 20 years, I'd say.
That's
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 awesome.
really cool prize. I don't think I knew about that prize, if I'm being honest. And I recently-ish, well, it was a couple years ago now, but found out about the Orwell Prize for political writing. And I'm like, God, there really is a cool prize for everything.
You just have to find them, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. Terry, thank you so much for being on our podcast. This has been so much fun. We have really enjoyed your answers to the bookshelf dive, but also to learning about your new book has been so exciting. So as you said, it's available now. We will link in the description of this episode and on our show notes and everything where you can get it. But yeah, Raylene, do you want to hold it up again to show everyone?
Yes, I also have it
the
right here.
cool cover. Yes.
There
A
it
new
is.
season.
Cool.
Very exciting.
There you go.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Terry. We'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Thank you for having me.
Of
It's been
course.
great. Thank you so much.
Yay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
And there you have it. That was a great chat, I'm sure. We actually haven't
We'll see.
recorded it, but I bet you it was great. And we're very grateful to Terry for coming on to our podcast and to our buddy Cameron over at Penguin Random House Canada for setting this all up. That's so much fun. Like we said, details about everything, about the book and the new book and everything will be linked in the show notes and in the description. We are now going to go record a Movie Tub, our Patreon mini podcast where we talk about the movies and shows that we've been watching. If you want to support the podcast and join our Patreon, you could go hear that at patreon.com/booksunbound. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.